week, some news out of Ohio from where I used to live at. And the reason I'm talking about this is I think we're going to see a lot of this nationally. A program called at St. Mary's High School, very successful program in the past, had a federal lawsuit filed against all the school administrators and all the coaches, and it's based on the fact that verbal abuse, making kids practice when they shouldn't, telling them they're okay. And it's a long, drawn-out thing. And I think we're going to see most of this because of the way the social media is getting now. But a federal lawsuit in any program at any high school level is a downer for all the sports. And that's when people across the country start taking a notice of it, that possibly, and my feeling is, I wrote a story yesterday, is that back in the old days, I heard a lot of words I didn't hear only in church. Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of words that I heard, and some of those weren't even in church, and you used to get kicked in the butt. You used to have to sweat, you used to have to run, you used to do all those type of things. It was not a lot of fun experience, but you did learn discipline and learn how to follow things. Nowadays, it has changed. You can't do that because people have a phone, they can take a video, and that's kind of what happened. They recorded a post-game speech. Gotcha. The coach got reprimanded, and he was at another school. He went back to his old school, which was St. Mary's. So just because it's in Ohio doesn't mean it's not going to happen here, but I have seen less of that over the years.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know. I got mixed feelings on that. Can a coach get his point across without using some of that language and things like that? I'm sure he probably could. I also don't mind a coach yelling at his team and that kind of stuff. I mean, in the proper context, you don't want to do it just to do it, but I think in the proper context that's needed, and I'm with you. I think kids can learn a lot from being in those situations and having somebody that's offering up some discipline and things like that in a proper manner, holding them accountable for different things. And there's so much now in we've talked about this in different contexts, just about as far as scholarships go and things like that. And I think the ones that you typically see get upset about this are the kids that aren't playing, or the parents of the kids that aren't playing, that kind of stuff, that they think that their kid should be highlighted more than they are, or be in a different position and those kind of things. And when that's not happening, now they start looking for other things that maybe we can get the coach out of here and those kind of things. And it's really too bad that it's come to that now. People get emotional. They get fired up. So coaches might say some things that might sound a little rough, if you're an outside observer. But more often than not, the teams are fine with it. But it is kind of sad. Now I do think the coaches should be held accountable too. I don't think that. You're all right. Back in the day, you probably could get a kick in the butt. I don't think that coaches.
Oh, I had one time. So.
I don't think coaches should necessarily be doing that kind of stuff. Obviously being physically abusive, those kind of things. But it is kind of sad now that a coach has to think about those kind of things. Can somebody pull a phone out and record what I'm saying, and how is that going to come across?
Video. That's what's happening a lot, or people start. The rumors on social media.
Well, and here's the other thing, too, which is just so it's crazy these days. I mean, you can take your phone, record a video, and they have editing software that you can get on the phones and things like that, and you can chop that up and turn it into whatever you want. The coach could say something in a certain context, and the team might respond great to it. They might be, but if you take some things out of there and you can frame it like it's a different context, and what can you do? You did say the words, and that kind of stuff. And, it's just crazy that it's come to that, though. And, a lot of that just comes back to the way some things are today. I don't think that...
entitlement, some of it.
It's a lot of it's entitlement. A lot of it is, parents not trying to... don't want their kids to learn some hard lessons sometimes, and and they always think that they're better than they are, and like I said, trying to get them in a better position, thinking, well, maybe if we can get rid of this coach, maybe we can move on and do something else, or seeing a money grab and filing a lawsuit, which I don't know where that's going to go, but
it's a federal lawsuit, and they're asking for financial consideration.
And how much of that they actually get in the long run, I don't know, but you're probably going to see some coaches lose some jobs. And
the superintendent's already left for another, or is leaving for another job, it started already.
And who blames them? People are probably going to be getting out while they can get out, and it's kind of ridiculous that it's come to that these days.
And you can read I got all the story, I got all the documents on there because I think it's important because a lot of people have gone through this. And my feeling is, and I wrote it in the second article, was in the old days, if you got in trouble at school, you didn't want to go home because you're going to get in trouble more. Now, when you get in trouble at school, your parents sue the school.
Exactly.
So we have come from probably one extreme to where
the other one.
Yeah, to the other one. There has not been a middle ground. But in the end, with the way things have changed nowadays, if you don't adapt to that, if you're a coach and do not adapt to that, then you're part of the problem too. You have to adapt to things, or you're going to, because this is going to put a black eye on this whole conference. He went from one school. He started at one school, the school where he's at now, and he won some championships, and then he moved like 15 miles away to the school down the road, who's a rival.
Right.
He got in trouble there. He got reprimanded by the Ohio Education Association. And then he went back to this other school, and now it's happened. So they can't be too surprised that they're in this situation.
Right.
And so sometimes you can avoid stuff before it happens, but I don't think there was any precautionary.
That kind of stuff is just going to lead to the further devolvement of high school sports
and
sports
issues
in general. Because what you're going to end up having now is you're going to start getting coaches that aren't going to say too much because they're going to be afraid of what they're going to say. They're not going to coach too hard because they don't want to think people that they're running them into the ground. They're going to start practicing less and those kind of things.
Well, they can't hit pads anymore
because they don't want to get accused of working them too hard in practice and whatnot. And what you're going to get is you're going to get to games and kids aren't going to be prepared. They're not going to know what to do, and it's going to end up being worse than it was before as far as the level of play goes. And that's going to put your kids in a worse situation if you're trying to get them a scholarship and those kind of things.
Plus, that coach is a teacher sometimes.
Yeah, so exactly.
So if you say, some kids are probably afraid to say something either way because they're going to be on the low end. And when you get down to it, it's not going to be a fun thing.
We talk about it all the time, how trends, flow down. And I think that, this is one trend that hasn't gone to college, but it sounds like it's starting to get to the high school level where, players just have all the power. We've seen it in the pros for a while now.
Northwestern wanted to start a union.
Yeah. But I mean, we've seen it in the pros for a while now. And I guess to a certain extent, the players do have the power in college too, when you at least look at the recruiting and things like that and how they can kind of hold that over a school and it can make or break a coach, whether or not you get certain players and those kind of things. So, and it just sounds like it's down to the high school level now too, where they're going to start, recording things and this and that. And, next thing
They had a coach at St. Mary's, Matt, that had won a lot of games. He'd been there forever. He was the guy the coach had said, we're not going to have soccer because that'll hurt my football program.
Right.
It's a town of around 10,000 people, so everybody knows everybody else's business. So you're not going to keep any secrets in there like that. But I'll tell you what, when that hits the national scene about this lawsuit, you're going to see a lot of other schools saying, we're going to have to do that too because our coach does that to us. And it's kind of like poison ivy. And the sad part is that the good kids are going to pay for it because the bad ones, or even the ones that probably should say something that haven't, are going to.
Right.
It's a sad deal.
We've both been on the sidelines a lot. We've heard some colorful post-game speeches.
A lot of mothers out there.
But despite the language, I've never sat there and felt like a coach was going too far or anything like that in those situations. Maybe they use the colorful language, but I didn't feel like they were necessarily, abusing the kids. They don't single anybody out or that kind of stuff. Now, maybe some of that happens in a locker room. I don't know. And I'm not saying that there's not coaches out there that don't do those kind of things, but now you're going to have coaches that, are good coaches, good people that are going to be, watching their backs now and worried about what's going on.
Yes, and I tell you what, it goes all back to that little iPhone in your hand.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I'm saying, you can turn that into anything you want because if you catch the right moment and it's taken out of context, you can turn it into whatever you want.
The problem is the letter of reprimand when this coach was at the other school in Wapakoneta, the home of Neil Armstrong, of course. He wrote some things in there that gave away some of the situation because somebody handed the video in.
Sure.
That's the problem. The parents went in and tried to get something worked out, and then the administration said, there's not a problem. When you do that, there's a problem because they're not dealing, and you got to deal with the stuff.
And that's the thing is you do have to deal with it up front. You can't just brush it off to the side, and maybe there isn't a problem, but you at least got to look into it ease the concerns, those kind of things. So that you absolutely do have to do. And, hopefully we don't see a lot of copycat on this. Hopefully this is just an extreme and a one-off thing, because, this kind of thing could really...
It's like concussion, that stuff, that, it took off that way. And part of it has to do with injuries, all this as well. One of the stories is one of the kids says that he had a bad injury. He wasn't supposed to have contact. He could participate in drills, and the coaches made him do contact without pads on, and he re-hurt his shoulder again.
Yeah.
So there's probably a level we need to break that, but it doesn't mean that because he's right or wrong that other schools aren't going to see that.
Right.
That's what makes me more nervous than anything.
Yeah, I mean, there will be schools that are proactive to this and just try to change some things so they don't get in trouble.
Parents that are proactive.
Oh, well, that's true, too.
And we're all parents. We all love our kids.
Yes, we do. Yep. Not saying you shouldn't look out for your kid, but sometimes you got to let them learn a tough lesson.
Yeah, that's why I married my wife. She loves me and tells me to keep quiet when I'm supposed to.